Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. My name is Muhammad Dipo Hasbi from class 33 1B07 with student number 33220176. Now I'm gonna show you my listening comprehension task. For the part 1 is complete this script. Let's continue. Which culture do you belong to? I was born and raised in America, where my culture was shaped. Is that a multicultural society? Yes, it is. My culture is a diverse mix of custom and tradition of various races and ethnicities. How long is your country been practicing those customs? Well, it has a long history, around 10,000 years ago. What custom do you like the most? I like practicing dining etiquette. That's what makes me American whenever I travel to other countries. What are traditional costumes of men and women in your country? Cowboy hats and boots are American styles, but nowadays jeans and t-shirts are more preferable. Are you comfortable with the traditions and custom of your culture? Of course, I was born with it. How did people greet each other? Well, it depends on the situation. In informal communication, people just say hi. Have you ever felt drawn to another land? Yes. I'm interested in Indian culture. I wish I can get there someday to attend a typical Indian wedding. That's all for part 1. Now we continue to part 2. Listen to the story and retell using your own word. Alberto and Mimi were a cat, lived in the house, and someday Alberto sees his new neighbor and knew his life was going to get more difficult. Alberto watched them arrive with their big noisy car. Alberto then went to tell Mimi about their new neighbor. Alberto and Mimi sees them as big, smelly, and stupid. At first, both of them just gonna ignore them for a few days. But after a few days, Alberto woke up from his sleep and see their new neighbor walking in their garden. And then Mimi called his staff to get rid of their unwelcome neighbor from their garden. Their new neighbor immediately got away from the garden, but gave Alberto and Mimi a dirty look. After that, Alberto and Mimi felt better and then asked their head of staff to prepare their lunch. After a few days, Alberto and Mimi often found that their neighbor are walking in the garden, but gave Alberto and Mimi a dirty look. After that, Alberto and Mimi felt better and then asked their head of staff to prepare their lunch. After a few days, Alberto and Mimi often found that their neighbor are walking in the garden, but Alberto didn't give any response, but gave his neighbor a dirty look. After a few talks was done, Alberto and Mimi understand about their difference from their neighbor. The next day, Alberto and Mimi became friendly to their new neighbor and tried to explain to their neighbor how to make their owner become staff like Alberto and Mimi. Then Alberto and Mimi explain a few things like make sure that you're always clean and they give you food whenever you want. Sit on the newspaper while they are reading it. Sleep as much as possible on their beds. And finally, try not to bark but to meow instead. But after a few weeks, Alberto and Mimi gave up. That's all for the part 2. And now we continue to the part 3. This is the last part. Part 3 is answer the question correctly. For number 1, what did the boy like best about the zoo? The boy liked the best about the zoo is the big porcupine. Number 2, what did the 11 do at the zoo? The 11 were eating when the boy sees it, and 11 float something with his trunk. Number 3, what can we infer about the bird show? The bird flew around on the bird show, and then they are rewarded if the bird do nice and follow the command. Number 4, where did the boy see the butterflies? In the building made of glass, and the boy see it after the bird show. Number 5, retell the text with your own word and describe the detail about the zoo. Mikey was going to sleep because it's getting dark outside, and his dad asked him about the zoo that they went before. The boy liked the big porcupine, and then there were 11 that were eating when the boy see it and float something with his trunk. The boy sees some giraffe that taller than his dad, of course, and see a bird show. In the bird show, the bird flew around and do some command, and then rewarded if it nice and following the command. And then there were some butterflies that keep in a building that made of glass, so they cannot fly away because of the air. Thank you for your attention. Have a nice day and goodbye.